Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel and I am Niharika, and the last video that I uploaded of my real-time life update was when I matched. And if you haven't watched that video, do watch that on my YouTube channel, because that is a very emotional video that I narrate all my story as to how I started my USMLE and how I matched, and there's like a whole description, and I do my favorite thing, which is storytelling for straight 50 minutes. It's a super nice video, and I would highly encourage you to go and watch it if you haven't already. So another real-time life update that I would want to give you is that I matched into my top choice residency program, which is in Chicago, and I'll be going to Illinois. So for that you need to procure a license, right? And there are different rules and regulations for different states, but I don't know how Illinois has such a crazy paperwork for procuring your temporary medical license to be able to work there, and it is super hectic. It's been, I guess, 2.5 3 weeks since I've been buried in just paperwork. I started off with my visa paperwork, but then it suddenly stopped, and I had to create this whole folder which almost has 15 forms and I don't know how many documents, and I have to courier it, like I have to ship it to the US, and today I'll be doing that. So I had been so busy, but I got your wishes and your congratulation messages, and it was so nice. Thank you so much for all that encouragement. It really means a lot to me. And when you guys text me saying that you are not posting and we would love to watch your videos, it just gives me so much of encouragement, and that is the force which kind of motivates me to make more videos. So today finally I am done with the paperwork of my temporary Illinois medical license, and that is why I'm filming today. My god, it has been like the last 2 weeks had been so busy, because I haven't still started my visa paperwork yet because I was so busy in this paperwork, but hopefully it will start today or probably on Monday. I'm super happy that I have matched into my top choice residency program. I really look forward to making vlogs even during my residency, because I can understand that people one of my friends, he told me that life doesn't end after the match, and I totally agree, because when I matched, people told me now you have to enjoy the next 2 months, 2.5 months, but I cannot do that because there is so much of work that I have to do. And I don't know people who have matched in other states, but like going to Illinois, you will have tons and tons of paperwork. So I feel that a new kind of a life starts after residency, and I'm very excited to start that journey. I'm very excited to record that as well. So let's see what the future holds for us, and I really wish to keep filming. So today's video is a very much requested video. I have gotten so many emails and even comments when people are asking me that what do you know about research opportunities, what is your point of view regarding research in your USMLE journey, and that is exactly what we are going to be talking about. I just want to give you a disclaimer that look, everybody has different kind of experience, everybody learns things differently and also different things. So I'm going to be telling you what worked for me and also what I have learned throughout my journey. So let's dive right in. So talking about research, I would say that I've seen a lot of people, and that's the reason why even I started my research, was a lot of people think that if they will not do research, then they will never get matched, which is partly true, because what we say is that while you are filling your ERAS application, you shouldn't ever have a section empty. Like if it's the research section, you should have something or the other to fill in it. It shouldn't be empty. So I think because of that reason, people think that research is so important that they can even sacrifice on the time that they can use to prepare for their step exams or probably look for electives and everything. So the main point that I'm trying to make here is that a lot of people think that research is so important that if they don't do research and don't dedicate a lot of time to it, they will not match, which is not true. Why? Because I just wanted to give you a little perspective here that how a lot of research can have a downside. That is because I have seen a lot of people and I've heard stories as well, and I think this is also logically true, that programs are looking for clinicians to hire, right? At the end of the day, you are going to be a doctor who will be treating real patients. If you have a lot of research on your application, then you might come across as a person who is a researcher, right? Who is a person who publishes a lot. So that programs really look skeptically towards this, because they are looking for a clinician. They are absolutely looking for an all-rounder person. They would want that, but they would want to hire clinicians rather than researchers. So this is just a little perspective I wanted to give you in case you are dedicating a lot of time to research. Again, this comes with other perspective too. There are two types of programs. One is a community program and other is a university program. For those of you who didn't know, and even I did not know this even while I was on rotations. So while I started looking for programs and doing the program research, then I got to know that okay, there are two types of programs. One is a community program and the other is a university program. So community program is a hardcore patient care kind of a program where you treat patients, where you are like a doctor, and actually what we have in our head that what a doctor does is you do that all the time in a community based hospital. But in a university program, you do more of research. It's more like developing the new guidelines, doing trials on patients. There is patient care, definitely, but there is more research to it. So I just wanted to tell you that if you are thinking about doing a lot of research, you should first ask yourself that what kind of a program do you want to be in. Honestly, while I was in med school, I always knew that I want to do my residency in the US in a very good community program, but I am definitely not very much interested in research, so much so that I'll do very high quality research to be in Harvard or Stanford or Weill Cornell or Yale. So I knew myself, I knew where I envisioned myself, and that is how I created my whole residency application. Today we are also going to be talking about the research section of your ERAS application, because that is a very, very important thing. I had this in mind that we will make a different series talking about each and every aspect of the ERAS application and each and everything that I've learned throughout while preparing this application, because this is like the biggest part of how the programs come to know about you, that is through this application. So I think it's very, very important, from the geographical preferences to your hobbies to the main experiences and how you write them, in each and every little detail you have to put in a lot of effort into this application. Coming back to the topic, so today we are also going to be talking about the research part of the ERAS application. I'll be opening my ERAS application here in front of me. So if you want to go to a community program, then it's good that you do, moderate kind of a research. And if you really want to go to Ivy League colleges or a big university program, you should definitely have a high quality kind of research, and not just one, but multiple of them. You should have people who are very well known in this field, so that it brings a lot of credibility to your work, and this is how things work. But we are talking both ways here, as in we are talking about that if you put a lot of high quality research papers in your program, that you will be unfit for a community program and they will review you as a researcher and not a clinician. Plus, if you're going to put a lot of research in your application and you cannot talk about it and you cannot explain that research, even then it is even a bigger red flag, because that means that you are lying. And one thing that you cannot do in this whole process is lie. If they catch you lying, then you are done there and then. So people who think that we're just gonna get our names for the research publications and then they just put it there, and when they are asked about it in the interviews and they're not able to answer and they start fumbling, then probably that is the biggest blunder that you could do in your application. So in today's video, we are trying to find the right sweet spot which you have to hit. If you are looking to go to a community program and you want some research, you want to be able to talk about it, yet you don't want to waste a lot of time while doing a lot of research which is not even required for your profile. So we are trying to figure that out today. So before getting into my own residency application that I have right in front of me, I just wanted to tell you again that people are different. I've seen people who have really good credentials and a lot of good research, and they do get matched. I mean, obviously they do get matched, but I'm just telling you that what kind of a profile you fit in. I fit really well in a community kind of a program, so that is how I built my profile. So I would really encourage you to figure out where you want to be and accordingly build a profile. Don't just start research because other people are doing it and because you feel really good when you think that, oh my god, if I do a lot of research then I'm gonna get matched. So do think about this perspective of being a researcher versus a clinician before you dedicate a lot of time to research. Why am I saying this is because I was very anxious while I started in my med school for research and everything, because even I thought that I will not get matched if I will not have a lot of research. And I think if I share my research story would be that while I was in medical school, I knew that I had to do some kind of research and everything. So the first research project that we did, and I didn't even know the basics of research. I didn't know anything about research. So my first research project, I and my other friend, he was actually a senior in a different college. So we both, along with our supervisor who was a Indian government college professor, we all did a research together, but that was done in COVID, and we stretched that study a lot, because of which it was not a very nice research project. Like, it had a lot of loopholes and it was not a very brilliant research. So what happened was that I did everything in that research. Like, I collected data, I created the database, I wrote description, I was part of the manuscript writing and everything. And in that experience, I got a little hang of how things are done during a research. Definitely I didn't do the stats on my own, that our supervisor did, because he was a lot into research, and we couldn't get that research published in a very good journal, so we got it in the government college medical journal only. But because of that research, I could do 2 poster presentations. One was online and the other was offline, and it was in AIIMS, so it gave me a really good credibility. Although even the feedback that I got there was that this research needs a lot of improvement, which I totally agree. But I did get a lot of experience through that moment, because you meet new people, and I did network a lot there. And it was AIIMS, it was a very good experience to just be there, and I even attended a workshop the next day. So it was super good. And after that, I honestly dedicated more time to my steps preparation, into finding electives, because I knew that I only wanted to do I only wanted to do moderate amount of research and not very high quality, because then you have to dedicate that amount of time as well. Obviously, I used to feel very anxious whenever I used to open LinkedIn, and I would see people posting that this research paper got published and they got selected here, they're going for international conferences. So that was a little anxious moment for me. But then again, I told myself that my journey is different. Things that I want, they are different from what other people want. And then I continued doing what I was doing. So then I have a really good friend who did his master's in public health in the US, and he was a part of a lot of research, and he offered me to be a part of them as well. And that is how I was a part of 3 other research, and even more, and we are still working on it. So that is how I got even more experience of how to write things and how a research is done, although I'm not so good even now. But the thing is that now I have a little bit experience, I can talk about things, and all those researches, I could talk about them. So if I open up my application for you, so I can only talk about the sections which I have, because I only have those researches. So in the section where it is peer reviewed journal articles / abstracts other than published, so there I have 4 papers, okay, and I can talk about all those 4 papers. Then in poster presentation, I have 1 poster presentation, although I had 2. One was online and the other was offline, but I only added the offline one because that had more credibility. It was from AIIMS and everything, and I could definitely talk about it too. So that was that. And then there is another section which is oral presentations. Now you would think that oral presentations are the only ones which you go to a conference and you give an oral presentation, but I did not have even a single oral presentation. A lot of people don't know that you can even put the presentations that you give during your rotations, and if you have given any classroom session during your medical school, you can even add those in your oral presentation. And that is how I had 3 oral presentations, right? One I had given in one of my rotations on biologics in asthma. The other 2 were my classroom sessions while I was in medical schools, and those irritating moments when the professor tells you that roll number wise you're gonna be giving presentations. So 2 of those were from my med school. So I'm just telling you that I only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 8 of those, and that too everything combined. So I did not have a lot of research because I was not very interested in it, and that is the kind of person I wanted to come across. That is why I made this kind of a profile. If you are a community heavy kind of a person and then you have 20 publications, nobody is going to believe in you, right? So that is what I'm trying to say, that don't just think of research because the other people are doing it. Think of it as if you want to do it. If you are really interested and you would want to convey the program that yes, I want to do research in future, or no, I will do moderate amount of research and I will be focusing more on patient care. So one of the things that I wanted to tell you was that even if I just had 8 things in my whole research section, I could talk about each and every one of those. Because for example, if you have done a research a long time back and then you are being asked about it in your interviews and you are fumbling, then you will come across as a dishonest person, because either you did not do that research, you probably took a paid research paper, or maybe you are not prepared enough that you don't know your application that well. And I think that's the biggest blunder. So never ever put anything in your CV that does not make sense to you, that you cannot talk about, that you are not interested in. Definitely, I would agree that sometimes we do research just to fill our CV, but make sure you do only those kind of research where you are genuinely interested and you can talk about those. So I would say that choose what to do in your time wisely. If you have your step exams, if you're looking for electives and everything, just manage your time well so that you know that you are doing the more important things first and the optional things later. Other thing that I would want to talk about is paid research. Even I was a part of such a WhatsApp group where they used to charge 4,000, 5,000 rupees, and based on what author, like what number of author they're gonna give you, and there used to be different researches like obs-gynae research, there would be cardiology research, because a lot of people are interested in cardiology. So then people used to pay, and trust me, just when they would text that this is the kind of research we are publishing, and if you could pay us this much amount, then we would make you first, second, third author, like people would send them money within minutes. I think within a minute or so they would tell that the first author is gone, the second author is gone, and that's how crazy people are for research. But trust me, the programs, they have years and years of experience in analyzing a person, analyzing an applicant. So if you are doing anything like that, and when they ask you about your credibility in these kind of papers and stuff, and then you will fumble, you will not be able to answer those questions well, then you are gone. Then they will not trust you, and there is a clear-cut rejection there. So make sure, even if you are doing such things, you are doing it with full preparation so that it doesn't seem like that you are doing it. Although I highly recommend against the paid rotations, because USMLE is a very financially demanding journey in itself, and I think paying for such things, it's not recommended from my end at all. And I think most or maybe all of my interviews were from community programs only, because I had a profile like that, and none of them, like not even a single interview, asked me about my research, like what was mentioned in my ERAS application. Probably they knew what I was doing, they knew I was very clear about where I wanted to go. They definitely asked me about my interest in research, how I would want to pursue it later in life, but not of what was written in my application. They even asked me specific areas where I was interested for doing research in future. I would highly suggest that if you cannot do very high quality kind of a research, do small research, but just be honest with it, just be interested in it, okay, so that you can talk about it in your interviews. I am focusing on this point so much again and again because I know how important it is. A lot of people think that they're going to take paid research papers and that's going to be it, but no, I don't think that's how it happens. So now coming to the next point, which is how do you look for opportunities while you are in med school. So I think the best way would be to ask your professors if anybody is willing to do a project, but initially I would suggest that take up projects which are ongoing, because that way you will gain more experience and you will see for yourself if you are interested in this field or not. Then probably one very good idea is that you and a group of your friends who are interested in the same thing could come up with a very interesting research question that could be done on a small scale, and then you could perform it in your medical school only. And I'll give you an example. A friend of mine, he conducted I think it was a little research in his own medical school that he did on the nurses, pharmacists, female doctors, as to how much information they have on self-breast examination, and then what percentage of lumps which were found on self-breast examination could actually tell you if it was cancer or not. So something of that sort, but it was a really nice small research, and he also got a sponsorship to expand this research, something like that. But it was a really interesting research question. He even did one just after COVID as to how much information do healthcare practitioners have about hand washing and how much do they practice it. This is a very good way of doing your little research. And I have seen people watching lots and lots of videos on YouTube about what is research, how to do it. But honestly, when I used to do that, I used to feel very sleepy. But I would highly recommend that you learn hands-on, like be a part of a project and then learn. We have a lot of modules for research, and I think a lot of newsletters for research as well on Empower IMG. So that is an organization that I've been leading, and you can go to LinkedIn and check that out. And also don't be invested in the fact if you're the first author or the second author initially, because when you don't have any experience, you cannot expect you to be the first author, because it gives you a lot of credibility and then you have to prove it in your interviews as well. So make sure whatever you're doing, it's honest and according to your caliber. And then after you do these small kind of research, you can make data out of it and you can present it in online and offline conferences. I think they are a very good way of networking. I think I'm also gonna make one video on communication skills and how important they are in this whole journey, and I think in life in general. And a big part of your communication skills is the confidence that you have while speaking, and you get a lot of confidence while you go to conferences and you present posters, talk with people, get to know them. Also, being part of research, even if you're not the first author or something, it also gives you an idea how do you research, how do you read research papers, because even if you are in a community program and you're not doing active research, still you are reading the newer guidelines and newer research that is coming up that you have to apply on your patients as well. So that gives you a very good idea as to how you read and interpret research papers. I forgot to mention that I had 2 case reports during my rotation as well, during one of my rotation, and another case report during my other rotation. So in total I had 3 case reports, but I did not mention that because they were not ready. I did not submit it for any conference, so I did not mention it, but I did mention it in my experience section, like whichever rotation had that case report, I mentioned that I'm working on a case report. So none of your efforts will go into drain. You can mention that somewhere or the other if it's not the research section, but it will be the experience section. Okay, now I'm going to be talking about the perspective when it comes to when people think that let's not apply this year, but let's take up a paid, or if it allows, an unpaid research position in the US. If you are, say, fresh out of medical school, but you are just giving this gap year so that you can do research, then I think that's not a very good idea and I will not recommend it. Because even my original plan was to apply for Match 2026, but because of the right timing and some amazing people who told me that no, you have to apply this year, I applied and I matched. Okay, so I think that you should never miss an opportunity to apply. Probably you can take up the research position and apply simultaneously if you already have letters, but make sure that doing one research elective or one research rotation, like I've seen a lot of people going to John Hopkins for that, is okay, but not a lot. Like, not all your rotations should be in a research area, they should be clinical as well. So I would say that do not miss out on any opportunity to apply, because even if you don't match, you at least get experience of it, and if you match, then it's a great situation. Also, if you haven't matched and then you think of taking up a research position, I think then it's a better idea, because you get to be in the US, you are also getting paid, so probably the basic finances are taken care of, and also you get an idea as to how to network with people. You find the right kind of people who can put in a word for you, and you also, in the meantime, you are doing research. So I think that would be a great idea if you have not matched. But if you are straight out of medical school and you're just taking up a position because you think that you don't have any research, then I would say that you will get a lot of opportunities during your rotations. You will come across people, you can add something or the other, but just because your research a part is blank in the application doesn't mean you have to take up a 1-year research fellow post just to fill it up. So I would say, even if your research is unpublished, even if you do not have a lot of poster presentations, you do not have a lot of experience, you can still say in your interviews that I'm still exploring this field, I would want to learn more, and I have done this work, and at least whatever you have done, you are talking about it in an interested way. You are able to talk about it, you know the details, you know what you did during the research. I think that is enough. I think this is all I know about research and everything. I already mentioned that I do not have a lot of experience in research. I had to make this video to share the knowledge I had about research, and also because I had been getting a lot of questions regarding this, and we also covered the research section of our ERAS application. I'll be recording more videos related to other sections of the ERAS application, as well as on personal statements, on interviews, how to research programs, and those little things which not a lot of people talk about. That's it. Like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will try and record more and more. Let me know what you think and comment down below. If you have any specific questions, you can also email me. I'll link down my email address. I'll see you next time. Bye.